Welcome, everyone. Hi, my name is Derek Cowell. Nice to meet you. With our late start class for Delta, it's History 17A, Early U.S. History. And I wanted to introduce myself and just kind of give you kind of a layout of my style of teaching. All right. So, firstly, I love to get into, as you see with the assignment this week, that is due on Friday night at midnight, 219. I like to do argumentative for several reasons. For one, right, I want there to be utility to history. I want there to what really use is there to memorize George Washington's birthday, etc. Right, but get some kind of use out of it. Secondly, I think college is about critical thinking. And thirdly, for any of you, however few, want to major in history, I feel like I'm giving you an introduction to historiography, the art and science of history, because history can be, to a certain degree, subjective, right? According to each his own sentiment. And so, with history, I believe that you select facts, and the facts that you select are oftentimes preconditioned by assumptions that you have about what makes things happen, what you hold to be, a determining variable as far as what causes events to go in the direction in which they go. So, for instance, you could think it's all about power and economics, and believe in kind of a universal human nature. You could believe people are just simply a product of their environment. You look at the factors of socialization of any generation, as far as what they're being taught, the values, the world, the institutions of their time, and how they mold them. You could look into the role of ideas and beliefs, right, and triggering decisions and behavior, and it just the list goes on and on. You could focus on um, how different demographics in society have fulfilled their role, and they call it functional theory, right, in sociology, and look at how everything kind of works together in functional history. Or you could focus on conflict and look at winners and losers in the realms of political, economic, and social categories of society, and see who has like prevailed as far as power and who's been able to dictate terms to others and kind of gain the lion's share of power and resources, etc. And so there are lots of different schools of thought in history, and they're going to determine, arguably, what facts you select, how you're going to look at and interpret those facts, and how you're going to end up presenting them. Um, okay. Let's see here. Sorry, maybe I'm getting ahead of myself, Chetney. That's. I'm glad that you typed me a question. How and when do you submit the assignments to me? Okay, everything, all the assignments, with the exception of the tests and quizzes, will be under modules. Modules, right? So you should be able to go to modules, go to that week's category, uh, and I'll try to be very um, you know on the ball as far as putting dates on everything. Remember, the dates are also on your syllabus. But look at that particular. So for this particular one, right, to string out 13 assignments and 3 tests throughout the semesters, and also 6 quizzes. I need you to do an assignment or a test every 5 days. That's how the numbers crunched, starting late this semester with this late start class. So every 5 days, I need you to submit something to me. Okay, beginning this Friday 219 by midnight. So you go to modules, and you should find on there Native American argumentative assignment number one, due Friday night, 219. Hit on that. Look at my instructions, hit the link, and then you should be able to submit there in modules your written response. And notice also on this first one, I have some sample writings up there. Take a look at those sample writings, okay? Um, And also be sure to read every section. And but most of the time, I'm going to ask you to only write on one of the 4 or however many sections there happen to be on that particular assignment. But make sure you read them all because something relevant to virtually every number will be found on the tests. So we'll do about 2, 3 to 4, between 2 and 4. Actually, it's usually 3 or 4 assignments and topics, and then we do a test, and then we do three or 4 more topics, and then we do a second test, and then 3 or 4 more topics and a third test. The third test is not accumulative. It's just so every test is going to be on those 3 or 4 topics that we're currently on. Okay. Um, so yeah, if you have any questions on that. Also, you guys just beginning, I have not let it be known to you that I had COVID, and I was actually hospitalized. And so the last week or two, I have not looked at my Canvas messages. I literally have been in the hospital or in bed. So I'm finally coming out of that. And so if you've sent me a Canvas message, know that I'm going to play catch up very soon. Okay. I have one more Zoom meeting after this in the afternoon, and hopefully it should be no later than this evening that I begin catching up on my Canvas messages. Okay. So let's see here. Now, did I answer your question? And by all means, you could either unmute yourself or text me, send me a written message. So not only did I answer that, let's see here. I clicked on the pre-Columbian Native American historiography assignment, but I don't see a link. Okay, yeah. Let me go back to that because there certainly should be. And let me show you. Matter of fact, let me share the screen. I was just looking, Chetney. Okay, and so neither could you see the link. That's not good. Okay, let's see here. Pre-Columbian Native American.
I don't mean to interrupt, but yeah, I click on the link and it shows the whole assignment, but then there's not an area where we could write back our argumentative, like our response and submit. There's nothing there.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. The only thing that I'm going to write this down because I'm still learning this system myself. And the only thing that I could possibly surmise from that I may have done wrong, in addition to just not having this. So can you see this, what you see now on the screen?
Yes, we could see your screen.
Okay, good. Okay. What I'm hoping, because I've always done, just in the 3 semesters that I've been doing now online, I've always done the same thing and it's always worked for me. So I'm thinking, oh gosh, what variable, went differently this time? What I'm wondering is if I put it as a file instead of as an assignment. So that's my best guess. As soon as I'm done with this video, let me go back and make sure that I have it down as an assignment to be submitted. Because to be honest, beyond that, I don't know. I only log in as an instructor, and I've never seen it on your end. But you could bet your bottom dollar I will be in touch with my dean and my secretary as soon as this video is over, and to make sure that I get all the help I need to be sure of this. And also know this, especially with a late start class, to whatever extent I mess up or something is not available, I always try to ensure that you will never be penalized for that. So if I have to move back the due date for this first assignment from Friday, I will do that. And I'll communicate that through an announcement on Canvas. Okay. So yeah, that's go ahead.
A quick question. If this can't get fixed or you can't like redo this to where we can submit a response back on this assignment, would writing it as a Word document and emailing it to you, is that acceptable? Or does
Of course it is. And really, instead of just my general email, if you could send it as an attachment to the Canvas message, that would be the easiest for me and the most efficient. But I'm hoping we don't have to go there. I'm really hoping that somehow I have it as a file or something different than an assignment, and that I could change that. And because once you hit new assignment, then it says, submission, and then I hit submission online, and then it's always worked these 3 semesters for me on my end, doing it there. But yeah, I've never logged in as a student, so I'm sorry. I don't know. That's my only guess right now currently. Is hopefully it's just not currently put down on my end as a submittable assignment. Shoot. Yeah, so I could pretty much tell you right now that I'm going to move this due date back already. Um, it already being Wednesday. Um, so yeah, uh, let me stay in touch with you via announcements, okay? And you please do the same with me via Canvas message. Please send me a Canvas message. Uh, I would love to receive at least one or a couple tonight, because, like I said, I have a Zoom meeting at 3:30, and then by about 6 o'clock, I should be able to have rectified this and have it submitted as a submittable assignment. And so it should have been rectified by about 6 o'clock tonight. And so if not, if at least a couple of you could please send me a Canvas message to let me know, I would greatly appreciate that. Okay. But shoot, that's not a good beginning, and I apologize to you. Also, regarding the names here, I want to make sure I have all your names down, because I'm going to post every meeting, obviously, for those who can't make it at the times that I have them. But I also want to give extra credit for those who can. So I want to each time make sure that I have your names down, and then when I correct this particular assignment, I look at my list of names and I add 5 points to your score for participating in this Zoom meeting. Okay, so why don't we go ahead and do that right now? Let's see here, participants. All right, so let's try this. See. Allison, Bella, Chetney. Thank you for your patience here. Let's see here. Uh, and obviously, let me know if for whatever reason you don't receive your 5 extra credit, and I'll write that on my submissions of your scores.
I was gonna
Yes,
I
go
was
ahead.
gonna say that Allie's my nickname. Alice is my real name.
Oh, thank you. I know it's strange. Let's see here. Let me see if I could hit, because what I'm going to do for the sake of time is, if there are a couple of you with that, with the same name, the same first name, it's just so frustrating that at MJC, I'm an adjunct, so I'm at a few different schools. Like at MJC, it automatically shows the last names.
Yeah, that's the same for me. Mine is under Bella, but everyone calls me Bella, but my real name, like under Canvas and stuff, is Isabella.
Okay, thank you, Isabella.
Yeah, no problem.
So like I said, when anything is unclear, I try to go out of my way to make sure that you are not in any way penalized for my mistakes or any kind of glitches. And so if I had to give, extra score to 2 Alice's this first time around, then so be it. And then hopefully by the second meeting, I'll have it resolved with the last names and so forth, because usually the same group of people are able to attend week in and week out. Also, what I'm going to let it be known very soon here. So Wednesday at noon, I want to tackle that. But like I said, with my other classes and other schools, it's much more simplistic. and that they've been going the full semester. And so I just have one Zoom meeting a week, right? Because they have from Monday to Sunday night to do each of their 13 assignments and 3 tests. But with you guys, starting on the 15th of February, obviously I have to truncate everything, and it's by 5 days. So sometimes, one a week may not be sufficient, as far as, because I want to be able to talk about every argumentative assignment as well as every test prior to its submission date, right? So that I could technically feel good about, feeling more ensured that you guys are prepared and aware of my expectations. So with that having been said, where I'm leaning right now, because see, the due dates are just, they're almost random when you look on the calendar. It's every 5 days. It's not random, but you know what I mean? First it's a Friday, then it's a Wednesday, then it's a Saturday, uh, then a Friday, then a Wednesday, then a Monday, then a Saturday. And so let me look at this and send you an announcement as far as my second Zoom date. I'd rather err on the side of caution and too many Zoom meetings than not enough. So like I said, I'm going to shortly determine a second Zoom date a week, and we're going to go ahead and try to tackle 2 a week. Okay. And again, they're not mandatory, but they are extra credit if you can make them. And by all means, if you cannot make them, go to modules and look at the posted video and watch it, as we will go through the argumentative assignments as well as through the tests prior to their due dates. Okay. So before we move on, are there any other questions presently?
I had a question about the textbook. Is it okay
Sure.
if I ask that right now? Can I share my screen to show you like the PDF?
Of course.
Oh, it says that the sharing is disabled.
Oh, shoot. Let me see. Let me no longer share the screen and see if that will help enable you. Let's see here. I'm sorry, you guys. I'm so much of this I'm still trying to get acclimated to myself. Okay, share or don't share. Where can I go to don't share? Shoot. Doggone it.
I think it's at the bottom. If you
Okay,
scroll,
how
there
about
you
that?
go. There you go.
There we go. Stop share. That would make sense. I finally found that button. So go ahead, hon.
It still says that the host has disabled screen sharing.
Oh, are you serious? Shoot. Okay, there's the chat. Let's see here. No. Were you wanting to show me a picture of your textbook?
Yeah.
Okay, shoot. Is there any way that you would be able to send a text, an attached photo to a Canvas message? I've had several students do that for me.
Yeah.
Send me a Canvas message and then have it as an attachment and say, Mr. Cowell, is this the correct textbook?
Oh yeah, I could do that. That's
Yeah,
fine.
I'm so sorry, hon. Like I said, I am not. I'm Generation X. I'm not a millennial, and I'm trying to learn this system myself still, and but still, that's no excuse. But mine, however, is the 15th edition, and you could use anything from the 12th to the present edition. And so this is what my particular book looks like. Okay.
Okay, mine just has like a silver hat on top of it.
Okay, that actually, I think that should be fine. I don't have that particular one, but I've seen it several times.
Okay.
Yeah, kind of a top hat looking hat.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one should be fine.
Oh, thank you.
Just the main thing, right, is that it's American History Connecting to the Past by Alan Brinkley, ALAN BRINKLEY. And that the main thing also is that you get volume 1, because obviously this is 17A and not 17B. And so we want to make sure that you get the first volume. of Native Americans before Columbus up through Reconstruction at the end of the Civil War. Because volume 2, obviously, you'll get the Civil Rights Movement, World War II, and things much chronologically later.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Thank you guys for your patience. What a inauspicious beginning. But hopefully we're gonna get into the grind and things will smoothen out. But how ironic with the assignment. It's just my 3rd semester online that has not happened yet. And I'm hoping that's what the explanation is, that it's just presently not submitted as an assignment, because it could, on my end, it could be submitted as a file and several other options. Okay. But again, be cognizant of your announcements, because I'll try to use those liberally. And like I said, I think I'm already going to push back this first due date on account of this mistake. So note also the 4th week, right? 3/7 or Monday 3/8 through Saturday or Sunday 3/14. We have spring break, so you'll have nothing assigned there during that time, and which is a little bit awkward because you're going to have your 4 subjects having covered by that time: Native Americans before Columbus, the Spanish colonization, also known as the Black Legend, Southern colonies, and Northern colonies. And so after that break, you're going to have the next week, Sunday 3/14 through Sunday 3/21. You'll well, actually through Friday 3/19, you'll have time to do test number 1. So that's a bummer that we'll have. I mean, I guess it depends on how you look at it, but you'll have covered the 4 subjects necessary for test 1, and then you have a week off for spring break, and then the following week you have to do the test. But I'll have it before then if you wanted to, for whatever reason, while it's fresh in your mind and you have the time and opportunity, should you desire to do it during the spring break, I'll have it up by then. And remember, the tests and quizzes are exceptional in that they will be under quizzes rather than under modules like the assignments. Okay. Let's see here. And so as far as the quizzes go, right, is like I said, I believe strongly in having this argumentative format for the reasons that I've already mentioned. But I also feel like you definitely need to have a foundation, right, as far as what generally happened when. And that's why I want to complement these argumentative assignments with textbook quizzes. All right. And the textbook quizzes, let's see here. Do you have specific days and times you're available to chat for questioning in between assignments? Let me, Chetney, let me look into that, okay? Because again, as my 3rd semester, I've yet to do that. And so I don't literally technologically presently know how to do that, to order have like a chat room. But again, getting in contact with my dean and my secretary, I'm sure I could receive help in doing that. But no, like I said, we're going to have, I'm going to offer 2 Zoom meetings a week for our particular class, because the assignments are due every 5 days rather than every 7. And again, always, I will catch up on my Canvas messages. Always feel free to send me a Canvas message with any questions that you have, or any information that I need to be privy to, as you've told me today with this first assignment, which was great. Okay. So before getting into this first assignment, are there any other questions?
Yes, sir.
Sure.
First, I apologize for the poor mic quality.
No problem.
And second, when I looked into the Canvas page,
Sure.
under the tab that says Home, there is an announcement list and a discussion list. Would you prefer us to post in that discussion list or send you personal messages through the Canvas system?
I would prefer, again, because of my lack of technological knowledge, if you don't mind, Alex, at least for now, before I learn about the discussion platform and the chat rooms, I would love for you, initially at least, to send me Canvas messages.
Alrighty,
Okay, if that's okay.
it is. And another thing,
Sure.
you were saying earlier that you weren't sure if it was a file or not, the assignment.
Yes.
Um, it looks like it's titled Pre-Columbian Native America History or Historiography .docx. And I think that I could be very wrong, but I think that means it's in submitted as a the document file.
Okay. Okay. Good. Good. Like I said, to be honest, I'm hoping that I'm presently hoping that I have done that wrongly, so that I know the solution. And so I literally can't wait to get back onto modules in Canvas to find out if it's in its right form. And like I said, that would provide the solution. So I'm ironically hoping that I have done that wrongly, and I could resubmit it as an assignment, and that will settle it. I really, really am hoping that, because beyond that, like I said, I will get in touch with my dean and secretary. I don't know. I don't begin to know what could be wrong if that's not the case, if it's already submitted as an assignment. But we will figure it out. We will figure it out, and I will adapt by changing due dates. I'll have as many Zoom meetings as I have to have. I want you to know that I have good intentions, and I will be as disciplined as I have to be to 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 resolve any glitches that we're presently experiencing.
And I think that's it for me for now. I believe Bella has a question in the chat.
Sure, thank you. Let's see here. On the side is a tab. You know what, Bella? That I believe I just have yet to do because you
Okay, I
guys are.
wasn't sure.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I just wasn't sure because I heard you had mentioned it on the side saying, there would be quizzes and stuff like that. So I just wasn't sure if it was up or not yet.
Yes. From last semester, Bella, what happened is that I go in, right, and modules as well as quizzes I enable on my side. It shows like a an eye, a human eye as
Yeah.
an icon, right, to show me if the students can see it or not. I go to the proper area. I click the right thing to open up quizzes. But I believe from last semester, I think this happened last semester, is that until I actually submit the first quiz, it's not visible.
Okay.
It's not visible to you yet.
Okay, that makes sense. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
No problem. It's the same thing with announcements. Until I send you your first announcement, even if I enable it, it doesn't show on your side until the first announcement comes. So yeah, for whatever reason, that's the way they have it set up. And also, I wanted to give you guys ample time before the quiz is due. So notice, right, we have a couple argumentative assignments that we'll do before the first quiz is due. I wanted to give people optimal time to get their textbook if they were getting it at the last minute. And so I'm really, that's no excuse. I could still have it posted by now. But that's why I've been kind of just taking my time with the first quiz. But yeah, once that first quiz is posted, it should be enabled on your side and you should be able to see it and take it.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. And also on the first test of the 3 tests, as well as on the first at least couple quizzes, is I put in as an option unlimited submissions. So you can kind of gain a familiarity with, because of course, as I would think with most instructors, I write my own quizzes and my own tests. And so we all have our own quirky style and what we think is significant and what we want the students to focus upon, etc. So there's a lot of subjectivity to it. So it's kind of just gaining familiarity with my quirky style of writing quizzes and tests. And so that's my way of trying to be flexible with you is on the first at least 2 quizzes and on at least the first test, you could submit as many times as you want and retake them. Okay. So anything else?
I believe
Okay,
there's, oh,
go ahead, Alex.
I was just gonna let you know there's a question in the chat.
Yes, the one from Chetney regarding discussion.
Yeah.
Yes. So I have a question for you. Like I said, as I've already mentioned, I have it written down to look into discussions to see how they work on my end. As like I said, in my 3rd semester, I've yet to use that option, and it's just simply out of ignorance. It hasn't been any, cognizant choice or lack of approval for that platform and that option. And so as I'm looking into it myself, are you guys currently aware? Uh, can you guys have discussions with or without me?
Yeah, we're able to like post a question or like we're able to just write anything under the discussion tab. That's why I asked that.
I see. I'm sorry, Chetney. I wasn't
It's okay.
aware of that.
It's
So,
okay.
do you happen to know? I know it's sad that I'm asking you the questions as the instructor, but like I said, I've never, I didn't plan before COVID to teach online, so I didn't
Right.
go through a lot of the training that I should have gone through. Are you aware? Do I need to enable it on my end? Do you think?
No, it's already open and available.
Perfect. Then
Right.
by all means, I am never
Okay,
again.
so it'd be okay for us to go to one another, like start a thread. Like if I have a question on this assignment and then any of my classmates can go on there and respond and we could chat amongst ourselves, you'd be okay with that?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah, I can't emphasize this enough in our first meeting. I promise you, I have the best of intentions. I want you to do well in my class. I want you to have any resources at your disposal that are available. And so, by all means, I am I am absolutely in support of that.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
No problem. Okay, so yeah, I will look into that and see how I could, participate if need be, if there are unanswered questions in the discussion. Uh, this is great. I'm learning myself, and hopefully that will enhance the class. That's perfect, and I'm all for it. All right. Anything else before we get into the assignment? Okay. So going back to sharing the screen, when you do look into this, okay. So notice each of these, right, is sometimes when I put these together, it's an interesting book I had read that I thought was thought provoking. It's an interesting professor that I had sat under at one time and heard his or her kind of subjective spiel on something. And so they are meant to be taken critically. Okay, I can't emphasize that enough. Some of these I put together with tongue in cheek, where I'm literally kind of grinning, because I don't even necessarily agree with what I'm putting together, but I just believe that it is thought provoking and that it's very relevant to discussions, to discourse on that particular topic. Because as you would guess, right, again, the argumentative side to history is, to me, that's the fun stuff. Is when you get any given topic, Native Americans before Columbus, we're doing right now, Spanish colonizing, the next assignment. There are some very heated, sometimes volatile, sometimes just very intelligent dialogue going on about different subtopics and different interpretations on that particular topic. So that's what I'm trying to do with these assignments. Okay, so by all means, don't take what you read at face value. It's meant to be taken critically. But I just want you to critically think and to become familiar with some of the popular discussions that are going on each of these assignments, and I love to look into your remember the two words I use are analysis and evaluation. So to me, in my own mind, I keep it simple. To me, analysis is picking something apart, right? You look at it and say, okay, what's the main thesis? How is it really being supported, right? What kind of data is being used? Is it getting into kind of pathos or logic? Uh, what's the kind of the style and the mood of the section? And and then in addition to analysis, right, evaluation, putting a value on how credible you believe it is. And a lot of these have deliberately been a bit myopic, right? A bit narrow, whereby they're not asking certain key questions that are relevant to the issue. They're not looking at data that goes against, right, what the thesis seems to be. And so, like I said, these are meant to be fallible arguments. And I want you to, I can't wait to just look into your reasoning and the way by which you dissect them and, and place a value on how credible you think that given section is or is not. Okay. And so you'll never be graded on what your slant is, your agreement or disagreement, your conclusion. Of course, that goes without saying, but I just look at the intelligence, the thoroughness of your argument, and how you're dissecting and evaluating that given section. And it really, when you look at the sample writings that I put up in modules, notice the one toward the bottom that received a good grade. It's really not that long. You don't have to, do an argumentative essay, on these by any means, but also make sure that you have done those two things, that you have picked apart or analyzed what the argument is and how it's virtually being defended, and that you have evaluated it as far as why you believe it is or is not, to whatever degree, believable, credible. Okay, so does that help as far as kind of a basic intro to these argumentative assignments? Excuse me.
Yes, it does.
Okay, good. All right. And so like anything, as you guys get through these, you'll they'll become it'll become routine for you as far as what that I'm expecting. And on the first assignment or two, because I'm at multiple schools and teaching multiple classes, I won't throughout the entire semester always write a detailed description of your analysis and evaluation, but I will at times just give you points out of 50 possible points. But on the first one or two, I write out precisely what I like, what I expected and found in your writing, so that I know that we're on the same page as far as you knowing what I'm subjectively expecting of you. Okay. So be sure that you look at my submitted subjective comments on the first one or two assignments. So getting into this, it's not rocket science as far as the thesis for each of these. On the first one here, right? You could oftentimes sum up an argument with a couple of the sentences here, right? And so look at the last sentence of the first paragraph. Studying Native American history before the arrival of Europeans conveys the frustrating and humbling reality that science can only get us so far. And I would subjectively say that you may want to really focus on that particular sentence as far as somewhat foundational to this first section, right? Ambiguity regarding Native American history. And so what you see here is you kind of have the granted but approach, right? Where you say, okay, granted, science has these particular methods and tools at its disposal. And so, radiocarbon dating, stratigraphy, isotope analysis, and that there is a dendrochronology, and that there is a science to those tools, those instruments, right? Whereby we don't feel as if we're completely in the dark regarding Native American history before the arrival of Europeans. Because what you have, right, in Mesoamerica, um, is you have codices and stelae. Codices are pretty much books, and the stelae are hieroglyphic writings on stones, and with pictographic writing. And as early as the 1970s, people like Dr. Michael Cowell feel as if they have cracked the Mayan code and some of the other written codes, as far as a Rosetta Stone, if you will, right? A code for interpreting the hieroglyphic or pictographic writings of these cultures and what each symbol means and was meant to convey, etc. And with the Mayans, right, it was very sophisticated. Part of it was pictographic, part of it was phonetic by sound, uh, and two pictographic and one phonetic. Three elements to the Mayan language. Very sophisticated, especially by 250 A.D. If you grade it on a curve with Europe and other places around the world on a basic timeline. Um, but in much of what is United States today, right? We don't have codices, we don't have the pamphlet books and the stelae, and so there is kind of a dearth, a lack of written record as far as what happened when with the Native Americans. You have cave drawings, you have the famous round counts on hides of animals, whereby they have it in a circle, and each season or year they write down a symbol of the. Usually, it's just one single event that their leaders felt was the main defining event of that year. And so, needless to say, right, that doesn't quench the thirst of anthropologists and other scientists who want to know further detail as far as what Native Americans did and when, etc. And so science tries to inference, right? It tries to use tools that could help them make educated guesses. And so, for instance, with stratigraphy, they look at mineral composition and the rate of soil erosion, and they surmise that at any given level, what they excavate or dig up is found can be assumed to have come from the same time period, have been contemporaneous with one another, right? And so sometimes they've lucked out. They found, like in New Mexico, right, uh, the rib cage of a mammoth, a woolly mammoth, or a mastodon, and they found at the same stratigraphic level with the same mineral composition bones of a Paleolithic or new stone tool or old stone tool human being, and they find an intelligently devised, a volcanic rock spear pointed spear that is lodged in the rib cage of the animal. And so hence, okay, that megafauna, those mega animals, were contemporaneous with man, with Paleolithic man, and Paleolithic man hunted them. And so that's just one example that I put in here, right? Of science offering us the way of inference, of devising, little windows uh, of of um, of analysis and being able to detect something, and then trying to draw conclusions from those disparate windows to try to draw general conclusions. And so, what has happened from the 1800s through now is anthropology has been very integral in all of this, right? And they've tried to devise a basic narrative from carbon dating, stratigraphy, tree dating, etc., right? And isotope analysis. And they've drawn a general narrative that fits with their theories on human evolution, right? And so we've all learned it as kids, etc., right? And the idea that mankind culturally has evolved from more simple to more complex organization. That at first people hunted in small bands, right? The mega animals. Uh, that through isotope analysis and through looking at the seashore, the shelves off the Atlantic and Pacific coast, they surmised that there were at least a few ice ages, and that the latest one was about 13,000 years ago, called the Wisconsin era, and that they likely surmised that well, perhaps Native Americans traveled through the water displacement of the last ice age by way of a land bridge, virtually opening up in the Bering Strait, right, the Bering Sea between Alaska and Siberia. And they could surmise that there were a couple major glaciers, and that there was a quote ice-free corridor or kind of a walkway between those two glaciers, and that likely the Native Americans could have gone through that area. And so, like I said, science has afforded these type of narratives, right? But then in 1997, they carbon dated something in Bolivia as well as in Chile in South America, that human habitations, like cooking sites, that have been carbon dated to 30,000, not 13, but 30,000 years ago. Well, so much for Native Americans coming only 13,000 years ago. Then they looked at the ice-free corridor, right, the area between evidence of glacial recession throughout Canada and North America, and they found very little of a carbon footprint, evidence of human habitation and crossing, and human garbage and refuse and hunting, and evidence that man had traveled and lived in that area. And so by 1997, everything was kind of thrown in the air as far as C. Vance Haynes' famous thesis that Native Americans came 13,000 years ago through the Bering Strait in the latest Wisconsin Ice Age. And then as far as Native Americans' connections to Siberia and Mongolia, they have certain linguistic ties with certain keywords, but others would argue and say, okay, well, keywords have often been borrowed from disparate, separate peoples that just interacted through trade. And not necessarily, that's not necessarily proof that they come from the same physiological lineage. And then you have the mitochondrial DNA studies of the 1990s that showed that certain genetic markers that seem to be rare amongst humanity, like the GMAT and the Diego allele, were found more prominently amongst those who were tested and labeled as Asian in origin as well as Native American in origin. And to this day, scientists disagree as far as how convincing that DNA evidence is or isn't. And so, right, and so the granted but approach is notice that there's an attempt to boast about science and what it has concluded, what it's been able to quote discover, right, with the methods that it has at hand, and then it's followed by a kind of a but, and saying there are holes, right? Carbon 14 dating, something as basic as barometric pressure, and the damage in the ozone layer, etc., and CO2 emissions, etc., may scientists now believe adversely affect the rate at which carbon 14 deteriorates. And if it does not and has not deteriorated at the same uniform rate, then so much for carbon 14 dating being able to definitively tell us when something happened. Same thing with dendrochronology, with tree rings. There are anomalies that could happen that could mess up the results, et cetera, et cetera. And so hence, again, kind of going back to that last sentence of the first paragraph, that science arguably could only take us so far. Okay. So any questions or comments on number one?
Um, Um, it seems I'm not good at evaluation, analyzation. I'm not good at that. But from what I can tell, this seems like a fairly well-written essay, right? Like it goes,
Well,
go
like
ahead.
I said, that part, I promise you, as I put these together, I lay my ego aside. Like I said, some of these I'm aware of how fallible, how narrow, how narrowly opinionated that particular section is. And like I said, I've done it deliberately just to be thought provoking and almost anticipating and expecting you to disagree. And then some of them I am not an expert. I don't have a PhD in on a single topic, and so oftentimes adjunct instructors with just a master's, we're basically familiar with most of the content, but not expertly familiar with a single thing. And so I kind of fit that. And so I would not, and this is not with false modesty, I would not presently feel comfortable about trying to get published on a single topic in U.S. history. I don't feel I'm there on any single given topic as far as the just the precision and the depth of knowledge and the wide variety of sources that you should be familiar with, et cetera, and the depth of that. Um, but I feel I feel well enough that I've read enough books on enough topics that I feel basically capable of giving a general lecture on about any given topic in U.S. history. So again, kind of just generally familiar with most of U.S. history, but an expert at nothing. And so keep that in mind. So in some of these cases, my point being here is that some of these cases, my arguments are very fallible, and I did not even intend them to be fallible. And it's always very humbling for me. There usually is, an assignment or two that I receive from a student whereby they have some source of criticism that was a blind spot for me, that I kind of chuckle and say, wow, I didn't think of that. That's a great point. That's definitely an omission on my part when I put this number together. And so, like I said, I really try my best to always be cognizant of that and to lay my ego aside. And I expect you guys to be, not an expert on any of this, but by all means to, as the semester progresses, to because I think this is a skill that is honed like most skills. And so if you don't feel, real adept, Alex, presently at analysis and evaluation, it's simply like any other human being, is that you haven't, gone through grad school and have been asked to analyze and evaluate, a myriad of sources. So it's just lack of familiarity. That's all. It's not a lack of intelligence on your part. And so I think it's something that you will hone throughout the semester as you get accustomed to looking through and reading and scrutinizing these numbers. So don't sell yourself short. I am regularly humbled by some of your submissions of things that I had not thought of, that contradictions, omissions, etc. But like I said, don't put too much pressure on yourself. I'm not expecting you, if I, as your instructor, am not an expert on any of these single topics, how much less do I expect you to be? I just expect you to be able to intelligently pick it apart, see how it's being defended, and give me your take on how credible or not credible you believe that section was. So yeah, don't worry, don't sell yourself short. You will only get better at this. So then number two, right, is number two is very much more it's kind of the politically correct uh, pluralistic thesis, right? Whereby going back to anthropology, right? there was this assumption that there is kind of a general pattern uh, by which humans have culturally evolved, right? From more simplistic to more complex civilizations. And again, uh, don't take that for granted. Don't take that as the gospel truth. Anthropology, like any art or science, is limited to its tools and its methods and its assumptions, and being, swayed by its own undergirding, uh, assumptions. And so, to some people, right, this simplistic narrative is just not correct. It's also ethically not fair, because what the Spaniards and the English in particular are going to do, right, is they have people called jurists, jurists, and the jurists were interpreters of the law and lawyers. They served several capacities. And these jurists literally tried to come up with rationales, with legal justification for taking over the Americas from the Native Americans. And so clearly, right, they had an agenda from the beginning, and that agenda entailed, right, trying to justify taking the land from the Native Americans. So, as you might guess, and you've seen in either books that you've come across or movies, as kind of an undergirding theme in a movie that you might watch, is oftentimes the the Native Americans have been very simplistically labeled as either innocent and childlike and kind of condescending terms, right? Like they're like innocent children who have yet to have their eyes opened to things of civilization, or that they were like barbaric and almost like demonic, right? And so those simplistic uh, stigmas were placed on Native Americans, the very first generation of Europeans that came here in the 1490s and the early 1500s. What they call them are chronicles. The Europeans who came here, they made observations of the Native Americans. They tried to inquire of their histories, and then they would write an analysis. They'd write a book, if you will, and try to get it published back in Europe. And yes, some of them were just simply wanting to become famous. Some of them were wanting to justify conquering the Native Americans and taking what was theirs. Some of them felt as if they knew what their European audience wanted to read about, that they wanted to read about these exotic, backward, childlike, right, barbarian Native Americans as like a form of an escape, and get into the other in their imaginations during early modern period of Europe. And so they definitely had agendas in writing what were called the chronicles, the European chronicles of the Native Americans. And so with number two, right, uh, is it takes the approach of defending the Native Americans, not so much as saying that, putting this narrative on them and making them try to prove themselves by a European measuring stick is unfair and is unethical. Instead of going that route, right, this write up on number two just says, hey, let's go ahead and compare them on the European measuring stick or barometer. And the Native Americans compared very well, even using a European measuring stick. And so, as far as that measuring stick, right, again, a lot of it comes from anthropology to this day, is you have things like, I kind of put it into five categories in my mind, at least five, from the books I've read and the professors I've sat under, et cetera, right? Is one is manipulation of the environment. They want to see to what extent Native Americans and anyone else for that matter, right? Ancient Egyptians, Mesopotamia, et cetera, to what extent they have changed the landscape in an indelible way. So, major pyramids and major architecture and building, major knowledge, use of knowledge of geometry and engineering, etc. Right? They want to see these great landmarks as far as manipulation of the environment. They want to look for evidence through anthropology of development of a complex society. And complex, right, is just, it's not simple. There are multiple demographics, many different classes of people. So you have, for instance, right, the basic narrative reads like, okay, perhaps by necessity, perhaps by trial and error, and perhaps by, you know, multiple other sources that kind of added together. Um, Native Americans and other people, for that matter, throughout the world, began to walk away from just simple dependence upon hunting and gathering food to begin farming. Right, the Neolithic or New Stone Tool Revolution, the farming revolution. And as you probably know, farming, right, was at least partly, you know, man derived. So you look at the different grains throughout the world, sorghum and millet and the other wheats that you find thousands of years ago in Africa and in Mesopotamia and in China, etc. Right? They were man devised. They were hybrids where they found different weeds and growing naturally growing plants, and they kind of Mendeled it, right? They created a hybrid of some sort, and so hence their intelligent design gives them some credit as far as that accomplishment. And then of course corn is no exception to that, right? With the famous three sisters that Native Americans came up with, corn, beans, and squash. That they were man derived. They were thought of intelligently by man. They were a combination of different plants and weeds that were intelligently designed by farmers. And so then when that happened, right, the argument is that it kind of created a uh, I don't know if I would say avalanche, but a domino effect, right? That firstly, you're going to need highly concentrated labor to do the farming. And so you're going to at least have to have the option of coercion, right? Of being able to force people to work in large numbers. So hence you're going to derive some type of hierarchy, some type of reigning elite, right? That reigns over the population. Then also you're going to have to worry about the temptation of others to wait until harvest time and come and steal your food. So hence you might need to develop a standing army. And then in addition to that, right, now you're at the mercy of the vagaries of the weather uh, and the elements, the natural elements. So then also, perhaps not coincidentally, you have evidence for the development of organized religion and different types of hierarchies, right? They call them sacerdotal, like sacerdote, priest in Spanish, like a sacerdotal elite. And so you're going to develop that. Then not everyone needs to farm, right? And then, you know, kind of you think of like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, where, you know, you at when you're worried about getting eaten by an animal, you're worried about your family starving, you're not going to sit around and write poetry, right? But once your basic needs are met, then you could develop more sophisticated tastes and preferences and a lifestyle, right? Beyond the mere level of emergency and necessity. So then now you could develop a class of people who are artisans or skilled workers who could make jewelry, uh, uh, adorned clothing, pottery, and tools and weapons, etc. Right? So you develop an artisan class. Then, in addition to that, you could develop relations with neighboring civilizations, and develop trade with them. So you develop a merchant class, right? And so those are like the basic examples of the development of a complex society coming from a more just simplistic nomadic hunter-gatherer uh, type of organization. And so again, this is argumentative. This is still at the level of a theory, not a law. But to this day, right, when you take your anthropology class, this isn't the undergirding assumption that humankind has evolved along this line. And so when they look at Native Americans, right, they said, well, see, like when the Spanish came in the 1770s to California, they said, see, none of the, with the exception of the Chumash of Santa Barbara, none of the Native Americans seem to be farming. So they're still back at the hunter-gatherer stage. They're still at this primitive stage, this pre-civilization stage. And so it became an excuse, right, to either take them over, to develop paternalistic institutions over them, like the missions, like we're going to be your father figure. We're going to tell you how to properly live and properly conduct your lives, right? And so, like I said, it's very argumentative. It's very tied to European excuses for taking over North and South and Central America. Uh, so again, what number two, what you look to is evidence for those who say, well, you know what, let's go ahead. We'll play this game if you want. We'll go by this assumption of human evolution, and we'll show you that Native Americans fared pretty darn well as far as their accomplishments. And so again, going back to the 5 criteria, I'm sorry, I'm kind of going all over the place here. But you have the manipulation of the environment, you have the development of complex society, you have uh, improvements in technology and science, right? Thirdly, you have the development of literature and arts and other non, necessity oriented elements to culture, right? Poetry, music, and different classes of people, right? That are involved in aesthetics and a culture's view of beauty and of meaning, etc., right? And more esoteric things. So you have that realm as well. And then, of course, lastly, you have religion and religious developments. And Native Americans, needless to say, are not going to hit European criteria. I mean, how could they? They had never heard of the Trinity of Christianity, right? Of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. And so they're going to have no chance at all as far as meeting European criteria when it came to religion. But at any rate, on this one, right, instead of focusing on that last aspect of religion, this section will focus on areas that are more tangibly defended. So the development of cities and architecture, the development of science and mathematics and technology, the development of literature and art and culture, right? And of course, right, just to add more drama to the dialogue, is a lot of the evidence that you find of Native Americans meeting these criteria that the Europeans are imposing on them are going to first be found in Mexico and Mesoamerica, not in present U.S. territory. And to a lot of people, right, it's as simple as just the environment. Uh, when you look at a lot of the major civilizations, they're found along major fertile river-oriented valleys, right? The Tigris and Euphrates in the Near East, the Yellow River in China, and et cetera, et cetera. But it doesn't meet that concretely, that theory in the U.S., with the exception of the Mississippi River. Uh, you look up the people known as the Adena, Adena, very fascinating what they're increasingly discovering. Evidence of like mining, of architecture, of complex, large populations, farming, as early as the time of Christ. Um, but the other area where they find even earlier evidence of this civilization, and I say civilization in quotes, right? Because it's a European criteria that we're using, is found ironically in the very arid or dry and non-fertile Southwest, namely in New Mexico and Arizona, where the Spanish generically called them city people or Pueblo, because they developed great cities. So Chaco Canyon, Pueblo Bonito, Mesa Grande, you could Google these, and they're impressive as far as the edifices, the buildings, how many people, how many perhaps thousands of people lived in one given area, their use of a written language, their knowledge of astronomy and mathematics and architecture and science, their use of irrigated farming, et cetera, et cetera. the Pueblo, in particular, their antecedents, those before the Pueblo in that same area, namely the Anasazi, Anasazi, the Mogollon, Mogollon, and I'm sorry, I'm presently forgetting the third one. There were three of them before the Pueblo, but at any rate, you get the point. And so number two is humoring the Europeans. It's saying, okay, fine, we'll play your game. We'll take as an assumption that humans have evolved along those 5 lines, and we'll show you that Native Americans did very well, especially considering the fact, right, that Native Americans could not piggyback off of other people like the Europeans could. So when you look at Europe, right, yes, you have, mineralogy and farming, and some basic evidence of, quote, civilization amongst the Celtic people, the indigenous people, or the Iberian people of Europe. But you find a lot of things, right, as far as a written language. We got that from the Phoenicians of the Near East, right, in Europe. The Greeks and others brought many, semblances of civilization to the Mediterranean coast of Spain, as did the Muslim Moors of North Africa in the 700s. So a lot of, when you look at the Spaniards bringing over Christianity, a written language and phonetic language by sound, right? Gunpowder and the crossbow. You can go one by one with those inventions, and they're attributed to other people other than the Spaniards. So they were able to piggyback through war and invasion, through trade, right, and travel, from people from the Near East, from Asia, etc. And of course, the Native Americans could not do the same because they're separated by the Atlantic and the Pacific Oceans from the other continents. So with number two, right, it's a defense of Native Americans. It's playing the Europeans' game, humoring them, using the same measuring stick, and saying, you know what, the Native Americans did pretty darn well, according to that European standard. Okay. And then again, kind of looking at number three, looking at that last sentence of the first paragraph. From their ethnocentric, right, seeing only from their own cultural lens, vantage point, that is from the ethnocentric vantage point of Europeans, Native Americans could only appear different, pagan, and primitive. And so on this one, right, instead of focusing on, the first 4 of those 5 criteria of human evolution, this one focuses more upon religion and also upon the absence of a modern notion of private property amongst Native Americans, and how they shared certain, religious beliefs. That the idea number 3, right, is that not that it's fair, not that it's accurate, but it was what it was, is that because Native Americans shared certain religious beliefs and practices, and did not have a modern concept of private property, that they were unfairly stigmatized and labeled in a very condescending way by Europeans. That it was almost inevitable that Europeans were going to think of themselves as superior to Native Americans. So again, it focuses mainly on religion, but on polytheism, a belief in many gods, a belief in animism, that there is a live spirit connected to all animate and inanimate objects, and oftentimes connected to an animal spirit or deity. The notion of dualism, right, and pantheism, that there's a great spirit in all living and inanimate objects, and that there is a dichotomy between the physical and the metaphysical realms, and that they're connected holistically, right? And so, a lot of that to this day, what do we call it? We call it, what's the word they use oftentimes? Because to some people, the adjective is condescending. Oh gosh, the word is eluding me right now. Alternative, right? that this belief in these this alternative lifestyle and holistic worldview. To this day, some people believe that there is a lot of condescension involved in how we look at Native American religion, right? Like, oh, how cute from this bygone archaic era, right? They still believe in many gods. They still believe in holistic healing, etc. Right? As opposed to the European scientific revolution and ideas that the physiological should be separated from the metaphysical realm, right? That if you have cancer, you should get chemotherapy and radiation, etc., and not worried about a sweat lodge or holistic meditation, etc. Right? And so to this day, that kind of condescension arguably prevails. So that when Anglo Americans and others get into holistic studies of Native Americans, et cetera, right, that it almost is considered just an alternative, college kid deviation into an archaic realm, instead of the quote modern reality and worldview that we look from today. And so that's what you're to look for with number 3, is that because of these religious beliefs and practices that many of the Native Americans shared, because by many accounts, right, Native Americans were very variegated, very different, very diverse as far as language groups, as far as types of culture and lifestyles. There were great differences. Some were matrilineal through women's lines. Some were patrilineal or patriarchal. Some were nomadic hunter-gatherers. Some were sedentary, civilizations of great populations. But despite all those differences, number 3 focuses upon the similarities that Native Americans had that likely elicited or brought about European almost disdain and condescension. Like, oh, you cute little children. Let us show you the more modern way to live and way to view the world. So are there any questions? You guys still there? I didn't bore you to death, did I?
We're still, I'm still
No,
here.
you did not.
I'm still here.
Oh, good.
I didn't know if you just because some people want just people to be silent if they don't have questions. Some people want people to actually say no questions from me. So
Yeah.
I'm still feeling that one out.
No, you got it. Well, if I know myself even remotely accurately, I know that with me it's just I keep talking because first of all I love history. I feel like I read a lot. I it's very fascinating to me. I love talking about it. I also would rather err on the side of being redundant than not giving you enough information to equip you to do these well, right? Because after all, I'm the one that's paid to know this stuff, not you. And so I should know more than you do presently on some of this stuff, right? And want to do my best to inform you. But at the same time, I absolutely love questions. I really do. So by all means, at any given time, unmute yourself or text a question, and I promise you, it does not offend me at all.
All righty.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So
I do have
again,
a question.
yes, please.
So you want us to write up our response based off of whatever section we go off of, or this is gonna
That's
be a
right.
silly question. Okay, so is that, because I was gonna follow up with, because you sent out sample responses. I didn't know if you wanted us to argue off of the sample responses.
Not at all. Yeah, I
Okay.
just wanted you to be able to see a few examples of what students have written, and just generally what I thought about had been written, because again,
Okay. So you want us to You want us to argue back based off of whatever section we choose to do?
That's right.
Okay.
That's right. So again, for the tests, there's something almost without exception, there's something in every given section of every given assignment that is relevant to at least one question on your next test. So by all means, please read it all. But yes, most of the time, with few exceptions, I will ask you only to choose and evaluate and analyze only one, whichever one you want.
And I have a question, and
Sure.
it's short paragraph. You're not looking for long, and
Yes.
we're not having to comment on anybody else's arguments till paragraph.
That's right.
Okay.
That's absolutely correct. Yeah.
And I'm with Alex. I am so bad at stuff like this, so that's what I'm mainly worried about.
No,
I'm
don't
so
be.
bad at argumentative things, so I'm like, oh, I'm so stressing over.
No, please
this.
don't. Please don't.
Okay.
Honest to goodness, this sounds cliche, but if I had a nickel for every time I've had a student tell me, Mr. Cowell, your class ended up being more easy, for lack of a better adjective, that your class ended up being easier than I thought initially at the beginning of the semester, I'd have a lot of nickels. And so I'm
funny.
throwing a lot of information at you. This is the first argumentative assignment that have had thrown at you. I promise you, it only gets easier, because I'm kind of a one-trick pony. This is what I do the whole semester.
So I like that easy part, because I'm currently in nursing school, and so I'm kind of deciding whether I should do this over summer or if I can handle the workload. Do you have a summer course that you teach?
You know what? As an adjunct, as a part-timer, we're offered only that which is left over, which they're willing to. So that's the frustrating part. Is literally when we sign our contract semester by semester, it reminds us, and we have to sign off saying that there's no guarantee for the subsequent semester, that we're employed for this semester only, and only time will tell in the future.
Got it. And so do you teach summer courses in any other school?
At MJC currently.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Yes.
Got
And
it.
yeah, so I'd love to have you at either school. And so far, I've been doing this for 14 years, or actually 16 years. And there have only been about 3 or 4 summers in which I didn't receive a single class from either school. So most of the time, I've been very blessed that way. Most of the time, I get at least a couple classes every semester.
Oh, that's good to know. Okay, perfect. And the last day to drop this class would be?
Oh gosh, I looked it up and put it on your syllabus.
Oh, you
I'm
did?
sorry,
Okay. No, I
Kayla,
thought I read somewhere that to disregard the dates on the syllabus.
Yes, on the first one. But I recently updated it with new dates. And yeah, those dates should be correct, including like the census date, the drop without penalty date, etc.
Excellent.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. I don't have that with me right at this moment.
No, that is fine. I will look. Not a big deal. Thank you so much.
No problem. But that's all I could tell you guys is obviously from this first Zoom meeting, you see how highly fallible I am as your instructor. But I promise you, I have good intentions. I want everyone to do well. I'll do whatever I can that's in my capacity to help you succeed, and to make sure that everything is clear and all deadlines are fair, etc. And I'd like to think that with this argumentative layout in particular, that for those of you who are not to be, history majors, that it might be a little less boring. Okay, so yeah, if you guys have any other questions, please let me know. Otherwise, I'm pretty much have finally finished for this first Zoom meeting.
I don't have any questions off the top of my head.
Okay, good. But thank you guys. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for your flexibility and understanding. Like I said, not a very auspicious beginning with this first assignment not being able to be submitted after 3 days end of the semester. I will look into that and hopefully rectify that very quickly. But like I said, I'll do everything in my power to try to evolve, improve, adapt, and accommodate you guys.
Thank you. You've been awesome so far.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. I really do.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, so it's nice to meet you, all of you, and I look forward to the semester and hope that you stay in class. I hope you continue to take this course this semester, and I can get to know you a little better.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you. You guys
Thank
have
you.
a good day. Okay,
Same to you.
you as well.
Okay, quick question for you.
Yes.
So if you can't go on and fix it to where we could submit it how you expected us to, it'd be okay to send you as an attachment. You want it through your Canvas email?
Canvas message, please.
Yep. Okay. Okay. Got it.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Hopefully that won't have to happen, but yes, as an
Okay.
emergency, as a contingency, a what if, yes, that would be great. Okay.
Okay, perfect. And then real quick before I get off of here. So basically our short argument is you are just looking for our opinion on whatever section we choose. Like we just, like you want to hear our argumentative opinion? On it?
Yes.
Like what are you
well,
expecting to
well,
get back from us?
Two things, okay? Is one is I want to see that you were able to discern what the main argument was and how it was defended, right?
Okay.
And then secondly, your opinion on it.
Okay.
Yeah,
Got
your
it.
opinion to me is your evaluation. You're putting a value on how believable you think it was or wasn't.
Okay.
And then the analysis is the first part, right? That you just showing me that you could basically summarize, that you could basically, right, detect what the main argument was and how it was
Okay.
being defended.
Okay. And this is totally off topic, but who's your football signed by? I see it back there.
Oh, my football is signed by Emmett Smith.
Oh, wow. I have one signed by John Elway.
All right.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you.
No, thank you. Like I said, nice to meet you guys.
You
I have
too.
a question.
Nice to meet you as well.
You as well. Thank you guys.
Are you changing the date for this assignment, like a little pushing it back? I
I am, hun. Yeah, even if I resolve it as soon as I get off this meeting, because it's Wednesday and it's already due Friday, I'm gonna let you know through a message, an announcement in Canvas. But yes, I'm already gonna move back this first due date.
Cool. Thank you.
All right, no problem, huh? All right, have a good day, you guys.
Same to you.
All right. Goodbye.
Bye
Have a good
bye.
rest of your day.
You as
Bye.
well. Thank you.